Hi Simunza again.
Hi.
Thanks for coming for a second time. Yesterday my battery died, so thanks for continuing the conversation.
Well, yeah, no, it's a pleasure to hear. It's a pleasure to continue conversation. We had technical faults, so yeah. And it's a beautiful day. So
It is on Youth Day.
Yeah, Youth Day.
So we were discussing enterprises,
Yes.
how they can use technology.
Yes, I think when we had the conversation, I think I was getting to the point of as enterprises continue to expand, what happens is that they get stayed in the processes and they form processes and they get used to processes and shifting is a hard thing for them because that's actually what works and revenue continues to come in for revenue continues to come in to get those money. But I see an opportunity for them to explore, not essentially explore new opportunities, but also new markets and new opportunities, but also to transform part of their culture and part of what happens by allowing startups to explore in areas so they can either use startups to supply certain components of the processes for them. So we've seen this in the banking sector where tech startups can see an opportunity for what can be done within the space, and a bank will say, okay, great, we don't have the capacity to do that or to roll that out, and they start acquiring the services of a startup towards rolling out a certain service that helps them to deliver to a new market, to penetrate places where they traditionally don't.
Right. When it comes to looking at the West and maybe taking some ideas from there and implementing them here in the local atmosphere, do you think that we're able to do that enough, to tweak it in the sense that it becomes Zambianized, or do you see it often that people try and copy technology from the West and put it in here, copy paste?
So copy-paste doesn't always work. As much as you would have said, okay, great, it's a tried and tested platform that works in Europe, you'll find that, or the West rather, you'll find that the infrastructure there allows it to roll out. The education, and I don't mean formal education as in where people are primary, secondary, and tertiary education, but the education on how to use services, for example, is things are at a place where people are already comfortable with how they use certain technologies, how they use certain methodologies, and so on. So you find that you're investing more on this end, on bringing people into using a certain area. So sometimes when people copy and paste, we've seen a lot of copy and paste. So sometimes when people copy and paste something, you find that they haven't accounted for how much they have to invest in educating people on the advantages of this new platform that they're bringing in. But more importantly, is sometimes the question is, does it really, even if you're copying it from the West, does it really solve a problem that exists here? It might in the future, but currently, what people deem as something that's a necessity for them or an opportunity for them to advance might not be the same as it is in the West. So copy and paste might just not. Even within Africa, we've had innovations that have worked very well in one country, and you take it in from a country like Kenya, and you move to a country like South Africa, and you find that the same thing, and people assume because it's Africa that it's going to work equally the same way. It goes and fails totally in South Africa because the culture there, the context there, finds no space for this new innovation to grow within that market.
Would you have any examples?
So a popular example is M-Pesa, for example. So M-Pesa being mobile money transfer, amazing product, worked well and rolled out in Kenya. Vodafone is a company that owns Safaricom, which is in Kenya, and where Safaricom grew out in M-Pesa in Kenya, has a subsidiary in South Africa called Vodafone. So using that subsidiary, they rolled out M-Pesa again in South Africa. The growth of M-Pesa in South Africa was stunning, and part of that was because the banking infrastructure was able to do what M-Pesa had famously done in another country.
Right.
So the context within South Africa was different from the context of what that was in Kenya. And M-Pesa has gone on to flourish in other countries like Tanzania and other places.
Uganda
as well. Mobile money continues to flourish in other countries. So in Zambia, for example, your airport money, your mobile MTN mobile money, and Zambia mobile money, Zonas, and another companies that do mobile money transfer have done it. But you find that type of mobile money transfer service has not taken off in a place like South Africa because it's a different context.
Yeah.
Africa does it.
Yeah, makes sense. Actually, I can agree with you because I actually tried setting up a company here as well, called Kwenda Now. And Kwenda Now was a similar idea to Uber. And like you said, education was, I underestimated it. Because I would go and talk to taxi drivers, telling them how it worked, why it worked, and they saw all the benefits. However, I could explain to them how it works today, and I'd have to come back again and again and again to explain it. And I was only here for a short time.
Oh yeah. So you find that we've seen a number of those come in, and you find that the success of part of the success of an Orlando was they stayed in the ground. Right? They Orlando being similar to Uber, that they stayed in the market, and they initially started off with 1-2 drivers, but they stayed around, and people kept experimenting. Now it's probably the most popular platform in Lusaka for getting around Lusaka. Now there are others that are coming in, but the others are now coming in with the advantage of Orlando has prepared the ground and educated people, so you find that complexity are coming and are now growing a lot faster than Orlando, because drivers know how to use it now. Customers know how to use it, and are now comparing service for service to say which service do they prefer. So sometimes first mover advantage is you have to invest in educating the market.
Yeah, I agree. Despite having many differences, one thing that connects, I guess, Eastern and Southern Africa is the fact that we all speak Bantu languages here. Do you think that we use that advantage enough?
Not as much as we would. I think that advantage certainly works with the East African community. But I think on this end, the Bantu languages in Southern Africa are very fragmented. Zambia, for example, we claim that we have 73 tribes in Zambia. There are some similarities in a number of them, so some of them become dialects. And you'll find that, for example, Lozi might be slightly similar to Lozi from Western Province might be slightly similar to a language in Namibia, Sotho in South Africa, and so on and so on. But we don't play that to an advantage. And I think it's possible that that's because we mainly speak. If at independence the colonial power was English, we find that we'll get educated in English and we'll speak English and we use that. So I think there's also an advantage there in that a number of the Commonwealth countries speak English, so then we can take that as an advantage for rolling up. So that's why we are able to consider Zimbabwe as a market. That's why we're able, even though we don't speak Shona or don't speak Ndebele here, we know that the education system in Zimbabwe has allowed them to be able to speak English, and we can take advantage of that if you're moving into it.
So we already discussed briefly that enterprise would be a great way of for startups to move into the market. Do you see any other things that we could focus on?
I think currently I see the big opportunities as low-income consumer and enterprise are being the biggest opportunities. If you're going middle income, it definitely niches what I think would provide the best opportunity. The next thing is it's always a case of how do you help people get to the next. So then sectors like agriculture, I think there's a healthy opportunity to do something in agriculture. The logistics around that are still a nightmare because a country like Zambia is a very wide country with a population that can be a sparse population on a very wide country, but it's overcoming those things. It's like figuring it out. It allows for innovation as well. I wasn't, but members of the team from BongoHive were in Rwanda recently, and you've got companies like Zipline in Rwanda that use drones, for example, to deliver labs to clinics and hospitals that are in remote distances, that are 40 kilometers away, 60 kilometers away, and they can deliver medicines and it's a clinic can say we've got a patient. potentially needs type A blood, they'll have blood in there. They'll have a blood bank, and they'll be able to collect immediate from that. Put it on a fixed wing drone, unmanned aerial vehicle, and let it fly off. It goes as close to the clinic as it does. Drop it off. Keep on the clinic while it's arriving. Pick up the blood and save the patient within minutes. So it's exploring those opportunities, like how do we use technology to do things that may not have been done before, but definitely give the people an advantage.
Yeah. Do you think any such service would come into Zambia in the near future?
I think that will come in soon. I think I think those will come sooner than later. One, it's a case of, can you explore the opportunities where you can use technologies like that? Two, it's some technologies will continue to be back-end technologies that will continue to support. So I think like as cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, still a bit have still got a little bit of a way to go, but the blockchain will still continue to be a platform that I think that you can build amazing products on. So things like drones, definitely, we are looking at possibly running a drone workshop sometime this year. So we hope that will hopefully germinate some new ideas for what we can do with that area.
Nice. How do you see the aviation being tightly regulated in Zambia? How do you see this being circumvented?
Well, it is regulated, but they have been open to a certain extent. So, like in some other countries, they've asked for people to be able to get licenses before they get to that. And again, it depends on what. If you're flying, I don't know what the regulations are as to which models of vehicles can need to have a license for them. But I think, given the circumstances, it's not a bad thing. So if people get licensed, I think there's an opportunity for them. It does slow down the speed at which you can progress, but then it means that, in my opinion, it means that there's opportunity for a conversation to be had.
Right.
And the more solutions that they're there, it's easier to go to government and say, listen, these are solutions that we'll continue to bring up, and this is how they're helping people. This is how they're bringing jobs. There's a quote that I saw recently where somebody was saying, governments all over Africa are pretty much the same in the sense that if you can prove that you can create jobs confidently and you can give a methodology for how jobs will be created, governments are likely to listen to you and to help you move, because that's something that they need. We've got very young populations in most African countries, and that's something that that's an area that governments definitely want to address. How do you create it?
A good point. Over 50% of, I think, the general African population is considered a youth. So yeah. So America has the Silicon Valley. I believe Nairobi also has a similar hub.
Silicon Savannah, yeah.
Silicon Savannah. Where's the one in Zambia?
It's Lusaka.
Lusaka.
Yeah. Lusaka. Lusaka now. Potentially the complement.
Potentially. Yeah. So basically, there's a difference between the Copperbelt and Lusaka.
Only because the industries are very, very different. Lusaka, being the commercial capital of this country, allows for the financial districts it's almost like the financial district in Zambia, where all of that happens. There's opportunity to explore innovation for the mining industry from Copperbelt. So that's why I'm confident that it is most likely going to be that. I think following on to that would be agriculture. So another hub is like any innovations that start to get into agriculture will probably go into another town after that. But there are definitely opportunities to see along the mining supply chain is what opportunities are there to start companies that are either innovative or can address market issues in the mining sector.
Say I'm a startup, or say I was starting up Kwenda now today, and I knock on BongoHive's door. How will you help me in the process of becoming a better entrepreneur and making my product flourish?
So if you came into our program Discover, what you'd be looking at is a validating the idea you had for vendors. So initial questions we'll start to ask around who is the customer that you're targeting, and then get that as the customer and try to target them and say, okay, great, these are the people. So it might be a case of, okay, great. If we imagine back in the day, at the time that you started Brenda, we would say, okay, great. Who would be the most likely people who would be interested in that? It could be expatriates that are in Zambia because they've had the experience of Uber already in other countries. So maybe they might be low-hanging fruit with validating that yes, they are willing to use an app to pay the vehicle to come pick them up, and they feel that's safer. Or they want to be able to know what standard pricing is, so that they're able to they know ahead of time that if they leave point A, by the time they arrive at point B, they already know how much they're going to be paying for a service. Then we look at what's the wider market to grow out into. Next thing we'll start to address is what's the value proposition that you're going to have to give this. Then what do you need to be able to pull it off from a feasibility point of view. So if it's an app, what are the partnerships you need to have with drivers? What is the training you have to have with drivers to make sure that it's a safe service, it's value of service actually supplied to the customer, so the customer. Also, you never forget how the customers pay you, otherwise you won't be able to make any money. And how are you going to be able to make sure that that happens? And think through them. At the end of 3 weeks, if there's a validated market opportunity, you have either slide deck, a business canvas, an idea of the next steps that you need to take towards doing. If in that you say, okay, great, my next steps over 3 months, or the next steps over 6 months is I want to build the app, or I want to start testing this, or I want to get 2 to 5 drivers that I want to get on board that I know that I can rely on to service customers, who the first customers that will be using the app. We then invite you into our launch program and then help you build the company for the next 3 months and do advisory services what you get that market.
Okay. And what would this cost me?
It would cost you $100 to do the ideation bootcamp for 3 weeks. It would cost you $300 to do the 3 month program.
Okay.
And that's subsidized.
Nice. Yeah. There's a website that we can reach you on, I guess?
BongoHive.co.za is the website that you can go to. We're available on Facebook, facebook.com/BongoHive, Twitter, twitter.com/BongoHive. Even in LinkedIn, if you search for BongoHive, you'll find us there. You can sign up for our newsletter, which comes out every Monday, which will give you not only a snapshot of what's happening at BongoHive, but a snapshot of all the entrepreneurs activity happening in the club. So anything from talks like the startup grind sessions and startup junction sessions, towards each competitions that might be happening in Lusaka and anything that's going on, we write about it now.
Nice. Are you also doing an Indaba session yourselves where you interview entrepreneurs?
We do. So we have a night that we call Blue Night, which is really a film session where we get seasoned entrepreneurs talk about lessons they learned from failures setting up businesses and how they overcame those failures.
Okay, this can be found on the YouTube channel.
We did a lot of recordings and we haven't been able to go back and edit a lot of them. So we sort of like flat back on YouTube, but it's something that we hope to get back into soon.
Okay, nice. I'll put the link.
Please do. YouTube.com/BongoHive.
Cool. And then, are there any books that you'd recommend people to read?
Wow, on the spot.
If you remember any.
Yeah, I'm currently rereading the startup playbook. I think that's a good book. Obviously, everybody talks about the famous Lean Startup and the Startup Owners Manual. Steve Blank's Startup Owners Manual. Those are definitely good books that I recommend to people to read. But I definitely also recommend that people take a look at books that also talk about leadership. So whether you're looking at Pareto's principle around the 80-20 principle and what things that you can do around that, obviously there's John Maxwell's books on leadership are also great around that. I've got some books teed up that I can't remember immediately, but and this year I also really want to look into finances. We've got a great accounting team here that works with startups, but I would also like to get a better knowledge on my finances. That's what I'm doing into getting into this year.
Nice. And BongoHive, there's 3 of you. I remember I didn't even ask how you guys started. Maybe this would be a good time.
So we sort of knew each other within the ecosystem at various meetups that we used to meet at. And then the opportunity came to question around how Android was a new platform back in 2011. and we were asking what would it take to get more Zambians building Android apps. The outcome of that was running an Android boot camp, 2-week Android boot camp that helped people learn how to do build Android apps. Questions from that became how do people start businesses, where would they work from, and so we thought a co-working space might be a great idea. So we fortunately got the sponsorship from an organization called Info Trust that helped us set up our first co-creation space. 3 years later, conversations with another fund from Comic Relief called the Queens and Leadership Program to set up our entrepreneurship programming and a co-working space that we currently run. So it's being able to observe ourselves from things that we sort of like agreed on with regards to what we wanted to do in the ecosystem, knowing that it wasn't just about startups, but working with all sorts of players, every single player in the ecosystem, government towards private sector, towards funds, towards NGOs, towards other financial institutions that want to work with it.
So you've broadened the spectrum.
Yeah.
Is there anything that Simunza of today would say to Simunza that just started BongoHive?
Wow, it's a lot of work.
I can imagine.
I'll forewarn you that it's going to be a lot of work, but regardless of that, it's so rewarding.
And I guess it's also a good cohesion between you, right?
Yes. So being able to have a common goal and be able to come back and revisit the common goal has helped us to keep BongoHive towards its goal. And also growing a team that is is capable in areas that we're not, has also helped us to stay focused on what we can do, and bring in team members who can do it. So you can't do everything yourself. You really can't do everything yourself. So we're blessed to have a team that can do amazing stuff.
I think that's a good message, because a lot of entrepreneurs forget that they need to outsource as much as possible, when possible.
Yeah.
So that's a good lesson.
Yeah.
Mr. Simunza, thank you so much for coming to
It's
Business
certainly a
Indaba,
pleasure.
and we'll be in touch.
Great. Thank you for visiting Zambia again. It's always good to know that people come home and pay us a visit. And looking forward to you starting.
Cheers. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Hi, my name is Simunza Muyangana. I head entrepreneurship at BongoHive in Lusaka, and I'm encouraging you to subscribe to Business Indaba.